Hey everyone, this is Jill Hope, and I'd like to welcome you to the Women with Wealth chat series. So, today we are getting into an issue that a lot of people are challenged with, and that I think a lot of people are actually unaware of. And so I want to talk about this, and I'm going to talk about it through my own personal experience because obviously that's what I know best, right? We all know best and learn best, I think, often through our own personal experiences. But I'm doing so in the hopes that you can connect to some of the things that I'm saying, and maybe it opens up something for you in terms of where you are doing this in your own life. So before we get into that, a couple quick things. What is the Women with Wealth chat series? It's a time each week when we come together to focus on those things that get in our path, that get in the way as we are moving towards our dreams and our goals. And I talk about things that I'm seeing with clients that are coming up that seem to have commonalities. I talk about my own personal experiences, things that I'm learning and working through or have worked through, all to benefit you and help you continue to move forward and be energized on your path towards what you want. One quick announcement I want to make before we get into this topic is that I have a free workshop that I am doing next week, next Thursday to be exact. I am so excited about it. It's called Discover Your Sacred Money Archetypes. I've been doing this work with clients privately for quite a while, and it is just opening up awarenesses, ahas, and deep insights, not just about how you relate with money, but how you move through your life and the types of habits that are a part of you, that are a part of your pattern, and how it not only affects your money, but it affects everything. And we like to say that how you do money is how you do everything. And actually, I believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything as well. We tend to not have patterns that are only in a silo, but they tend to affect other parts of our lives. So in this Discover Your Sacred Money Archetypes training that I'm doing a week from Thursday, we're going to open that up for you, and you will come away knowing what your personal sacred money archetypes are and what that means for you. And hopefully that will open up some new ideas, new opportunities, and new awarenesses for you. So if you want to participate in that with me, I welcome you. I invite you. I'd love to see you there. You can do that by going to ishinewealth.com/SMA workshop, Sacred Money Archetypes Workshop. Again, that's ishinewealth.com SMA workshop. And I hope to see you there. Okay, let's get into this topic for today. And I said that today we were going to be talking about how purpose and money, how they link together. What is the relationship between you stepping into your purpose and you having money? How do they fit together? And for me, but I know it's not just me, because as I trace this back and as I look at every single client I've ever worked with, even my parenting clients, back when I was doing work there was always this thing. And I didn't necessarily name it this or call it out in this way. But like I said, as I trace it back, it was always there. And what is this thing? It's losing your voice. It's not accessing and embodying and expressing your inner voice, your unique voice. And I just had this brainstorm not too long ago that was basically the story of my entire life. That was the big boulder that had gotten in the way of everything else. And I don't think that this is uncommon. I don't, especially for women, but it affects everybody. And I want to tell you a little bit about how this happens and why I think so many people experience this as a block. They're feeling like you've lost your voice, or you're losing your voice, or you don't have your voice, or you can't get in touch with your voice, or maybe it's that you don't trust your voice. Maybe you hear it, you feel it, but you don't trust it. You don't act on it. So there's different ways that we interact with our own inner voice that affects getting what we want, moving towards the life we want to experience, having the level of joy we want, the level of fulfillment, the level of peace, the amount of money, the lifestyle, the being on your purpose, stepping into your purpose. all of that is connected to how closely you can hear your inner voice and how closely you follow it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So how do so many people or even anyone, how does anyone lose connection to your voice or not be able to access your voice? The most common way starts long time ago when we were babies. Because what I have seen happen, and I saw this in my parenting work as well, and it was just so clear, is that think about, if you have children, think about your children. And if you don't, just imagine for yourself what kind of going through this experience because you were a baby at one time too. So when we see a baby come into this world, that baby is completely connected to their voice, right? Like we hear their voice all the time because they cry when they want something. They let us know that that's how they tell us that they have a need and that they want it to be fulfilled. And babies don't censor their cry. They don't think about, well, gee, is it appropriate for me to want some feeding right now? Is it okay for me to ask to have my diaper changed? They don't go through that, at least from based on what we know about babies right now. That's not part of their process. They feel it and boom, they let you know this is what they want. They have no fear around expressing their voice as a baby. Not one baby has a concern about that, okay? So you didn't come into this world not being connected to your voice. You were connected to your voice fully, full on. But what happens to so many people is as we grow, we start to express our voice. We start to share things. Kids don't really have a filter, and they'll say what they want, and they'll say what they like, and they'll say what they don't like. And then we get messages back based on what we're putting out there that, well, you shouldn't do that. Oh, you shouldn't want that. Oh, that's not okay. Oh, this is better for you than that. And the general message is that someone outside of you knows better about what's right for you than you know for yourself. And while that may be in part true when you're a child and the parent is there or the caregiver, because the caregiver kind of knows what the dangers are out there in the world and what a child needs to be nourished and to be happy and thriving in their life, it basically takes away the child's inner authority. Now, you can never fully take it away. It's always there. But it can kind of go underground, if you will, where the child starts to lose touch with that. They do that by, first of all, starting to question, well, wait a minute. I am running around outside and I'm really hot. It's cold outside, but mom is saying it's cold and I need to put a jacket on, even though my body doesn't feel like I'm cold. I feel hot. And so these little messages start to chip away at a child's inner knowing about what they feel, about what's right for them, about who they are, because how we feel and what we want, kind of gives us a perspective on who am I in this world? And who am I in this world is connected to your purpose. What are you here to share? How are you here to serve? What are you here to experience that is uniquely for you? And that all comes by way of the connection to the inner voice. So you can see that, we start out, we have that voice, it's fully intact, we're fully connected to it, we're fully expressing it, and then it gets chipped away at. Again, well-meaning parents, but little chips occurring along the way. And then we get to school and the same thing happens with teachers. Then the teachers take over that authority for us. And then we become teens. And if that authority does not start to be transitioned to the child, where they start taking on more and more responsibility and getting more and more connected to what is right for them, if the parent still tries to control that, then the child, they get to the adult stage, and sometimes along the way, they will start to seek like an outlet through other kids. And this is where we can see kids get in with the wrong group, the wrong crowd, so to speak, because they're looking for that authority that they don't currently possess. And then they become adults. And then what we'll do as an adult is we'll often transfer that authority to a spouse, a partner, a boss, but we don't transfer it to ourselves. And so you can be at this point in your life where you've done all these things. You've lived this life that you feel like you're supposed to live, right? You've gone to college if that was a path for you. You know maybe got married and had some kids. Whatever, got the job, whatever it was that you were directed to do. And you get to a point. So many people are in this place where they're like, "Wait a minute. Who am I? What do I want? What's my purpose?" And what I've discovered is that when you get back in touch with that inner voice, that is like that's the treasure chest. That's where your jewels are. That's where your gems are. That's where everything is tied up and everything's connected. And if you think about this as this relates to money, if you think about channels in our lives, we step into a flow. Like our life is all about flow. At least that's what it's supposed to be. That we are supposed to follow. When I say supposed to, by the way, I don't mean that in a heavy, like you need to do this kind of way, but more like this is how life is. We feel something. We connect with an inner knowing. We check in with our heart. Our heart's like, yes, that's it. Go in that direction. And then we go, and life steps up and supports us as we go. That's kind of how we were meant to move through life. But if you lost your voice somewhere along the way, which I said so many people have, well, first of all, some people don't even get that, "Ooh, yeah, I want this thing." So that's one problem. They're not connected to the voice. I will talk about that in a minute. The other problem is they're connected with the voice. They're hearing and feeling this, "Ooh, I want that. Ooh, yes." And then another voice comes in. This is the outer voice, the voice of other people who had authority over you and maybe didn't fully relinquish it back, who you hear saying, "Well, that's really stupid. Well, that can't possibly work. Who do you think you are to do that?" And we get shut down by that voice. That's not your voice. That is not your voice. That is not being connected to your voice. So going back to what I said a minute ago about, there's following and listening to your voice and stepping into it, but there's also being connected to it. And this is the place where I was. I was not connected to my voice. I did not have this awareness for decades. But what I did know and how it was showing up for me is I could never make a decision, number one. I later realized I don't really have any opinions about anything. I mean, I used to kind of joke about it. It seemed weird, but I used to joke about it. And I'm a Libra, so I would say, well, the scales, Libra always sees both sides to every story. So maybe that's why I don't have opinions, because I can understand both sides. Yeah, that was a cop-out. So without having an opinion, without being connected to that voice where that opinion comes, without really knowing what your perspective is on an issue, you're really kind of lost. And it's really hard to be on purpose, to feel like you're connected to a purpose, if you don't really have a viewpoint or a perspective. Our perspective can get so clouded over by these messages that we're getting from the outside, to the point where I don't really have my own thoughts on this. And that is definitely where I was. And for me, it kind of came about, as I trace it back, it was really around my desires. Because from a very young age, I always desired things that the people in my family didn't see eye to eye on with me. They saw life in a different way. My father was very, very frugal. We lived very well within our means, if not below our means. My dad saved and saved and saved and saved and saved. There was really nothing left for us. But I had this huge appetite and desire and vision for fabulous things. I always wanted that. And that's how I know that that is a part of me, because where would that have come from? I didn't ever have that around myself. So the only place it would come from is within me, from my own inner connection to myself. So what happened for me is that over time, and getting this feeling and this the responses back that, no, Jill, you don't need that much. You don't, this is fine what you've got. You're okay with this. You don't have to have the large vanilla cone with all the sprinkles. You can have the small cone and be okay. It was constantly make it smaller, make it smaller, make it smaller. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what do I want? I thought I wanted that, but that's wrong. So I must not want that. My child brain came to the conclusion that, well, it's not accepted to want that. So that can't be right. What I'm thinking and feeling can't be right. In fact, not only is it not right, I must be stupid when I think that way. So I grew up with this stupid shadow. I mean, there was no way I was going to look stupid doing anything. And this came to a head for me. And this is all about, everything I'm talking about is all about the inner voice and your purpose. And in a minute, you'll see how it connects to money. Because so I lived from that point of getting that message, shut it down, Jill, keep it smaller, Jill. This is, you can have it big if you do it this way, the way we see it, not that way. That way's not going to work for you, right? Even though my inner knowing said that was the right path for me. So I followed the direction. I followed the advice from the outside. I followed the authority from the outside. And I ended up in this fabulous corporate job. I quite liked my job. I moved up fairly quickly. I did some really cool things in my career. I got to live abroad for 2 years, and I traveled a lot, and it was good. I'm not going to lie, it was good. But I'll never forget being at a corporate retreat, and it was for the higher level management teams. And I was lower level management in the higher level management, if you see what I mean. And so, but I was invited to go. And it was one of these retreats where they break you down. They get into your head, and they were using NLP and all kinds of stuff. And they were trying to create an environment in the office, in the workplace, where we didn't have boundaries, and we could speak our minds, and we could really relate to one another as a management team. And in the final day, like they let you have almost no sleep for 4 or 5 days. And in the final day, there was a row of chairs, and they were all facing one way. And then you, one-on-one, you'd come up, and it was like facing a firing squad. And, when it was your turn, you would sit in this chair across from all these other managers, and they would go one by one and tell you what their perspective of you is. They would one by one. And so I'll never forget, it was my turn, and a lot of people were breaking down, crying, and it was very emotional, right? Very raw. Everybody was raw. Nobody was mean. It was more about being real. And I'm sitting in the chair. It's my turn. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to cry in front of all these managers? Like, what's going to happen? And, I was not getting anything that was really like giving me any new awareness or making me scratch my head or anything like that, or cry or anything, until we got to this manager. She was 2 levels above me. And I always liked her. And I could tell she always liked me. Like she was a tough cookie, but there was a softness in her, and I could always see that. And I think she knew that. And so we connected. And she had said to me, she looks me in the eyes and she said, Jill, you're afraid to show how good you are. And right when she said that, like that, right into my heart. Right, not in a bad way, in like an oh my God. I knew that this was something really big. But I didn't know what she meant. I never got to ask her what she meant. I never got to ask her to elaborate on that. But I took that with me. And to this day, I still think about those words and what did she mean? And what I've come to, and this is like bringing it all back full circle on our inner voice, is that I had shut my voice down. And I don't think this is unusual, which is why I wanted to share this today. I shut my voice down to the point where, and it really showed up in the corporate world, because when I would be in a meeting, I would never, ever, ever give my opinion on anything unless I knew 100% that it was correct, and I knew 100% that there would be other people who would be in agreement. Otherwise, I said nothing, and I just listened and took it all in. Not even really sure how I got as far as I did by zipping it and never showing what I knew and being the leader that I knew I was. And I think she saw that, and I think she knew that there was a lot more depth to me than that was ever coming out. Because I see life in a different way. I see things other people don't see. I should have been sharing that, right? But I wouldn't, because I learned that your thoughts aren't right, Jill. You don't need that. You're not thinking clearly. You're not. So I got disconnected from it completely. Okay, I was not connected to my voice. I may have known some things in my head, not always though, but I sure as heck wasn't going to share it. So I am sharing all of this with you today because what I have since discovered is that, and I am practicing this now, and I have been for the last several years, my business has really brought it out of me in a big way, is that you must, wait, actually, sorry, I don't like to use must. I want to, but I'm not going to. If you want to feel like you're living a purposeful life, if you want to find that fulfillment, if you want to have peace in your life, if you want to come from a place of love and joy, if you want to have abundant money flow, it all comes from being really true to who you are. And who you are is one and the same with that inner voice, that inner knowing. That is your power source. I talk about choices, making decisions is your power. And, I talk about how to access your power through these different means, but the power is the knowing. That it all comes, that's your connection. That's your source, your knowing. That's your voice. That's what I describe as your voice. So if you have shut that down in any way, you have shut off the valve where the abundance flows through, where the fulfillment flows through, where the wealth flows through. You have cut it off. And then it's like you can't get the inspiration, or you'll get it, but you don't dare share it. And if you don't share it, how are you helping anybody? I mean, I used to just, oh my gosh, I used to censor so much. I was talking to a client earlier today, and she's writing a piece right now for her business, and like a client attraction type piece for people to opt in to what she's doing. And we were talking about this, and she's like, yeah, I heard this negative self-talk coming up. And when you're not connected to your own inner knowing, when you are agonizing over getting this perfect piece written, if you're a writer. Like once you move from your heart to your head, you're no longer connected to your voice. Your head, your brain is really good for figuring certain things out, but when you stand in your purpose, your brain is not going to help you. It's just not It's empty when it comes to your purpose in the brain. That access point is through your heart and your knowing. It's right in here, right? It's your it's right here in this area, and it's up, it's here and it's here. That's your knowing. And then of course it comes through and down and in and out, and this is, and connects to the earth and back. I mean, we are that is being in the divine flow. If you're blocking it here, how can things flow, right? How can it flow if your voice is blocked? If you're not hearing it, if you're not trusting it, if you're not sharing it. If you block it in any of those parts, any of those areas, you're blocking your flow. And all things flow: inspiration, joy, peace, love, fulfillment, money, all of it flows. And here's the funniest thing of all, and this is going to connect right back to this training that I'm doing next Thursday about these sacred money archetypes. And if you've already done the training, then allow this to help you reconnect to what you learned. So I kind of was raised, as I said, that wanting these fabulous things, that was not okay. You don't need that, Jill. And so that was the message I took away. And so whenever I had those feelings of, oh, like I want to be in this kind of environment, or I want to do that fabulous thing, or XYZ, when I would get those impulses, immediately the negative self-talk would say, well, you're not supposed to do that, Jill. You don't need that. That's not okay. Don't spend the money that way. Pay off a bill or something, right? Well, when I discovered that my sacred money archetypes, the top two were celebrity and romantic, and celebrity and romantic are both all about lovely things and high vibration, being in a high vibration visually and tactically, and in a sensory way. When I learned that was part of me, it allowed me to get a little more connected to my voice, because I realized, oh, you're not wrong. You were innately this. This is your nature, Jill. Just because it wasn't my parents' nature to want those things doesn't mean it's not my nature and it's wrong. So that's another gift of understanding your sacred money archetypes and the connection. Because when I saw that, I was able to step into it more. I was able to own it, to embrace it, and to say, well, what else does Jill want? So what I'd like you to take away today is, and we're just going to primarily focus today on the piece about not being able to really know what you want. Like, who am I? What do I want? I'm going to give you a powerful question to sit with. And I will tell you, I sat with this question for years. I would say for a good 2 to 3 years. I sat with this question, and it really, really, really made a difference. It took a while, but I was patient. The question to sit with, if you're just not sure if you're really hearing your voice, or you're not really sure what your voice is, or you're just not really sure, like, what is me? Like, what is it for me to want? What am I here to desire? What am I here to express? If you're just not really sure, sit with the question, what does Jill want? Put your name in where I said Jill, okay? But what do you want? What does Jill want? What does Melissa want? What does Kirsten want? Sit with that and keep asking and keep asking and keep asking. And as things come up, I recommend you write them down. I always have a running list of things I want, and I use them to build my goals for the year. And then I will go, I will check them at the end of the year. How many of these things happened? And it's surprising how many things I'm checking off. Like, wow, I didn't even really work for that. It just showed up because I got in touch with that as a desire, with that as something that's me. Because your voice, that is you. That is how you're meant to express. And your passion and your purpose is connected to your self-expression. And money comes back to you because of what you're giving out. And you don't have to have a business. I mean, you can be a parent and be giving of yourself fully, not sacrificing, but being the true you in how you parent your kids, in how you run your business, in how you show up in your work. When you are being that true you and really connected to your voice, that's you being on purpose. And so that is you fully putting out with the valve wide open, and that allows it to come back in. That's how the flow gets going. What you put out is what you get back. We often cut off our flow here by cutting off our voice. You don't just have a voice if you have a business and you're a speaker. Your voice is playing a huge role, or not, if it's shut down in your life, just as your life is right now. Okay, so first way to get back in touch with that is to ask that powerful question. What do you want? What do I, Jill, really, really want? And if you watched last week's video about permission, if you didn't, I suggest you go back and look at that. But what we're talking about this week is closely connected to that, because not only is it important to give voice to what you want, but you also do need to give yourself permission to even want it. You know, I was there too until I discovered my sacred money archetypes and saw that, oh, it's a part of my nature to want these things. And it just freed me so much. But, you know, you have, sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to want it. Because we've got messages that it's wrong. So you do, you know, once you start to see what are these things, am I giving myself permission to want it? Okay. So think about that this week. And if you realize that, oh, I know exactly what I want, I'm giving myself permission for it, but somewhere along the way, I'm not really expressing it outwardly, whether that's in what you're saying or what you're doing. We will talk about that separately, because that's a whole other thing, is getting ourselves to do stuff, right? But sit this week with the idea of, am I owning my voice? Like, do I know who I am? Do I have opinions? Do I know what I think about things? Am I allowing myself to think what I think, or am I allowing what the collective thinks to distort my thinking? Am I sitting in a place where I might think differently, and people are telling me that's bad or wrong, so I need to change that or tone it down or morph it into something else? If so, you're not really being true to your voice. You know, we see that a lot. I mean, that's not to go off on a tangent about what's going on in the world, but I mean, it is quite present here for all of us. There's some crazy stuff happening, right? And we see a polarization of views. There's this view and there's this view. And these people are wrong and these people are wrong. Well, no, I mean, nobody's wrong, right? They're just owning their viewpoint. But are you owning yours in that? Wherever in this, you know, I think it's a spectrum. Wherever you are you owning your view of it? And are you standing for your view of that, whatever that is? I'm not saying you have to like go out and do whatever, but are you being true to yourself? Are you being true to yourself? Are you being honest with yourself? That's the first step in reconnecting to your voice, is allowing yourself to admit, first knowing, allowing yourself to admit what you believe, what you think, and what you want. And then giving yourself permission that, hey, this is okay, rather than beating yourself up for it. It's okay that I feel this way. It's true for me. It's what I want. and then stepping into it. Other issue. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. I feel like I've kind of like gone back around and around and around on this, but it's such a deep, potent, freeing idea when you can really find yourself in this. Where am I in relation to my voice? Find yourself there. Where are you in that whole thing? Okay. So that's another question is, where am I when it comes to my voice? How connected to it am I? Am I at the place where I don't have a clue what I think? Am I at the place where, yeah, I know what I think, but I am beating myself up for it. I don't feel good about it. Do I know what I think? Do I feel good about it, but I'm afraid to share it because I'm afraid what other people are going to think about me? Or am I not afraid of any of those things, but maybe I'm somehow, not really stepping in. Maybe I'm resisting something. All of those points where we stop ourselves block our flow. They block our flow of money, but also our flow of everything else that we want. So I'm going to wrap it there for today. I'm appreciating all of you, because whether you are here live with me or you are taking time right now to watch the replay of this, I feel that energy. Okay. Like, don't think that I don't. I was thinking earlier today, do I need to do these live? Like, should I just record them and put them out? Because sometimes we don't get a lot of people showing up live on these calls. And it's like, you know what? No, I decided, no, I have to keep showing up live because I feel your energy on this call, those of you that are live today. And I appreciate you being here. And I really do think that because I am tapping in, and this is just a side note, but you showing up here I'm tapping into what you need as well, because you're here. I can feel your presence. And I do know that I'm also tapping in to people who have not yet seen this, but who will see it. But there's so much power in coming together in the same place and in the same time and sharing this energy. So I want you to know that I really, really value that you're here. And I know it can't always be that way, and I understand that. But I want you to know how much I do appreciate that. I love that you show up here live. I love that you watch the replays. For those of you that watch the replays, it means a lot to me, and it keeps me wanting to show up too for you. So thanks so much for being here. Love to you all. Oh, and do be sure to sign up for that call if you haven't yet, okay? It's ishinewealth.com/SMA workshop. Take care. Bye-bye.